For everyone who's in government now, I've seen some of them, they should read a book about the government. In fact, I should think they should have to take a class. If they're going to represent the United States, they need to, at the very least, understand the Constitution. I helped write it. I made important changes to it. That and the Declaration of Independence. I signed them both. So anybody who gets a chance to read about civics and government, you should definitely read that. It's important, very important to stay informed. Now I have another one called The Patriots. I have not had a chance to look at this one, so... Oh no, I forgot my spectacles do not work here. I have these other reading glasses. Perhaps they will help me see if I'm actually in the book. Does it even have an index? It is Franklin. Oh, I see Poor Richard's Almanac. That is on page 436 and 361. Hurry, let's look at page 361, shall we? Because I created Poor Richard's Almanac. Let me just turn around for a second so I can see. Now, where did it go? Benjamin Franklin. I was looking for Poor Richard's Almanac. But it shows Benjamin Franklin being in this book a lot. But let's find that Poor Richard's Almanac. Past that. Page 361. I had it on page 316. That's clever. Okay, let's see. 361. It says right here that John Adams was a little ahead of his countrymen. It's a surprise to me. Now, where's Poor Richard's Almanac? Each cut in his prose was a mutilation for Jefferson. Sitting nearby, Benjamin Franklin observed his distress. Franklin's nature was at least as full-bodied as Jefferson's, but he was more than twice Jefferson's age. Again, about my age. I'm not old, I'm just wise. And need glasses to read. That is not old. Over the years, he, that would be me then, has imposed prudence and patience on himself and commanded those virtues to readers of his popular Poor Richard's Almanac. Now he offered what consolation he could. He told Jefferson that he made it a rule not to draft any paper that had to be reviewed by a public body. He had learned his lesson with this incident. When Franklin was a journeyman printer, one of his companions was an aspiring hatter who had served his apprenticeship and was about to open his own shop. He wanted a splendid sign, but without proper inscription. And he wrote out John Thompson Hatter, makes and sells hats for ready money. Below that, he wanted a drawing of a hat. Before the sign had been painted, Thompson took his proposal to his friends for their suggestions. The first man pointed out the redundancy in the word hatter, since it would be followed by the words makes hats. Thompson struck it out. Another friend said the word makes could be omitted, since his customers wouldn't care who actually made the hats. If they were any good, they would buy them. Thompson took that out, too. A third friend said it was not customary to sell on credit. The words for ready money were useless. By now, the proposed sign read, John Thompson sells hats. Sells hats? Said his next friend. Nobody will expect you to give them away. What is the use of that word? Thompson struck it out and then took out the word hats, since there was already a hat printed on the board. So the inscription ended up saying John Thompson with the drawing of a hat beneath it. Franklin may have invented this story and very likely wasn't retelling it for the first time. I may have invented the story? Oh no, there's too many true stories in life to have to invent such stories. I see these kinds of things happen within government all the time. The bureaucracy, the red tape, and my main job as a printer, it has always been a fool's folly to try to change all of the words. And before you know it, the real story isn't even the same as the first story. But anyway, this book called The Patriots, so far, of the reading of the sample I wrote is Benjamin Franklin. I would give it a thumbs up. I heard that means something good. And I suggest reading it. Now, here's a book that I understand was a textbook in history in high school. Here's the textbook. A little earlier, I peeked at the index and I looked to see if I was in there. And I was but nothing but a footnote in this book. I was in it, but considering how much I had to do in bringing the first public library, I invented the fire brigade, which is now the fire station. I opened the first public library. I invented special glasses called bifocals. I opened the first fire station, and I invented the postal service, which is still in business today. However, they don't have a portrait of me in there. I couldn't understand why, since I was the first Postmaster General. But anyway, I would only suggest reading this book if your teacher tells you you have to and you have to pass the test. So we'll put this in the maybe pile. Now we have this Boyer's The American Nation. Now, this says it's an annotated teacher's edition. Perhaps a teacher's edition would have more in it. Let me grab on my reading spectacles once again. And let's just see if it has an index. It has Supreme Court cases. That's good. Let's see. Franklin. That is my name. Ooh, before I come to my own name, I see a huge amount of things about France. If you know anything about me, Benjamin Franklin, you know I spent a lot of time in France. The French ladies just adore me. So my benefactor, Kelly, I sent her to France to hang out with my ladies and eat petit fours. So this is good news that France is in here so much. Now, let's see. Benjamin Franklin. It gives me 1, 2, 3. I'm on only 3 pages. Let's see what it says. Page 132. Oh, we have a chart here. It's not page 132. The Treaty of Paris of 1783. In peace talks that followed, the American negotiators Benjamin Franklin, John Adams again, he had to come along, and John Jay won generous terms. We more than won generous terms. That's putting it very mildly. The Treaty of Paris, signed on September 3rd, 1783, granted the United States, number 1, independence, number 2, the land from the Atlantic coast westward to the Mississippi River and the Great Lakes south to Florida. I'm in Florida right now, and I can tell you it's much hot, and it's raining outside. Fishing rights in the Gulf of St. Lawrence and off the coast of Newfoundland. The treaty declared that the Americans should pay debts owed to the British. The American negotiators also pledged that Congress would earnestly recommend the states that all property seized from the Loyalists be returned. Of course, the states chose to ignore the request. They don't usually do what we recommend. So there I am, once again with the French Revolution. Let's see if it mentions me on these other pages. I apologize, I lost my place in the index. Benjamin Franklin. The letters seem so much smaller than they used to when I was a printer. Or perhaps these spectacles need to be replaced. Okay, the next page was when I was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention on page 146. Almost there. It's not far from where I was in here before. 146. All it does is list my name. It says here that the delegates, these are the ones who voted in the Constitution, George Washington and 54 other convention delegates were a remarkable collection of politicians. Most had helped write their state constitutions. All had held public office, many as delegates to the Continental Congress. They were a young group. James Madison of Virginia was 36. Alexander Hamilton of New York was 32. The youngest delegate, Jonathan Dayton of New Jersey, was only 26. He was a young boy. At 81, Benjamin Franklin was the elder statesman of the convention. Once again, I get put on one sentence, and I'm called old. I may have been old, but I did a lot of things before I got to be older. Wonder where that part is in this book. I would say this book, The American Nation, is good if A, you have to read it because you're taking a class, or B, you're just really a history buff, and it does have a lot of pictures, and it lists all the Supreme Court decisions, so that would be helpful. But if you want to learn more about me, on our next edition, since it's raining, I will go through the books I checked out at the library about Benjamin Franklin myself. So we will do that. And my benefactor told me to ask you to follow me and to like me and to please make a comment, and I will answer you back. The famous Benjamin Franklin. This is your chance to talk to Benjamin Franklin. So ask me anything and I will answer in the comments if I know the answer. If I do not know the answer, I will try to find out, or I'll tell you I do not know. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.